Hello everyone, welcome to the demo video of the project management spreadsheets template. If you haven't purchased this template, I will leave links in the description box so you can go ahead and grab your copy. This is the complete walkthrough demo video. When you purchase this template, you would be welcomed with the front page, which is the instructions tab. It contains some useful links as well as a complete step-by-step guide that you can refer to while you use this template. For the rest of this demo, I'm going to switch over to the demo copy of this template so I can show you exactly how it works. We are in the demo copy of this template, and the first tab is the setup tab. This is where you would select your weekly start date. There is a calendar tab in this template, and depending on the day you want your week to start, you can select the weekly start date as Sunday, Monday, or really any other day of the week. The next would be your currency selection area. So you can delete whatever the currency is here and change it to your currency. And the currency change here will be reflected in the rest of the template. All right, moving on to the other categories. Here we have several categories that you will be able to customize. We have categories or departments. So you can select either category related to your job or your project, or you can use department. If you're going to use department, you would delete category and type in your department. The next is priority. You can put whatever priority range you want, starting from very low all the way through none. If you want to use this categories that has been built into the template, you're welcome to use that, or you could delete the ones that don't apply to you. The next area is the project status and the task status. So you can select the icon here if you wanted to change it. And you can change the text here to something that reflects your project or your task. The only thing that you should not change would be this area. This area that has this yellow color cannot be changed because these specific icons and these specific text have been tied into formulas. So changing any of these would affect some of the formulas in some of the tabs and they will not work. If you don't want it to say ongoing or completed, please let me know and I'll be happy to customize it for you. So the next section is the phase or milestone. Just like with a category or department, you can select phase or milestone and put in the specific phases, the milestones, or the specific timelines that work for your projects. And the last is the personnel categories. This could be a list of your employees. This could also be a list of people that you are collaborating with to work on your specific project. So you can put in either groups of people or specific names of people. All right, so the next tab is the dashboard tab, and this is where you would see the summary of all of your projects and all of your tasks. The side panel of the tab is collapsible, so you can get it out of the way if you need to use this part of the template, or you can open it up if you need to navigate to the rest of the template. So all of these different buttons are hyperlinked. So if you wanted to navigate to the project summary or to the task or the Kanban board or to the to-do list or the weekly calendar, etc., you would be able to click on this tab and navigate directly there. The next part of the dashboard is where you would be able to view all of the different statuses and all of the different projects and the tasks related to that project. Because this is a multi-project management template, you will be able to select your project and only see the task and the statuses related to that project. If you wanted to view all of the tasks and all of the statuses related to all the projects, all you need to do is to keep this area blank. If you wanted to view a specific project statuses and tasks, etc., all you need to do is to select it here, and it only shows you the task related to that. The other thing that you can do is adjust the dates. So if you wanted to see information related to a specific date range, you can select your start date here. You can select your end date here, and it would only display tasks and projects within this date range. So these are the two ways that you can filter out the information in the dashboard area. This first area is where you would see a list of your tasks. The task will be displayed here in order of due date, and if it is a task that is overdue, the color would be red. This part of the dashboard is not affected by the date and the filter over here. This tells you the number of tasks that you have that's ongoing, your projects, the number of clients you have, and your total revenue. So regardless of what you select here, this will always stay the same. Here we have another set of filters. If I were to remove all of these filters, you see that we have all of the tasks that's displayed here based on these two filters. So the date filter and the project filter. If I were to remove this project right here, you can see that all of the tasks would be displayed. One thing to note is that the tasks that are displayed here will be limited. So this only displays the top 12 tasks here, and this only displays the top 13 tasks. If you have a long list of tasks and it exceeds the 12 or the 13 limits here, you may have to change your filter settings or filter by project so as not to exceed the capacity of this list. All right, so moving on to this area, if you wanted to filter by category or department, priority, phase, milestone, or status, you can go ahead and select the specific category here, and you would only see the tasks. The same applies to the priority, the phase, and the status. So you are able to narrow the list down as much as you want and display only the information that you want displayed. The last part of this dashboard is also not affected by this filter because this shows you a list of all your active projects and the revenue that you have received from the project. This shows you the top list of your active clients and the personnel distribution. When you purchase your template, it will be blank, so nothing would show up here until you start to populate the rest of your tabs. So moving on to the first tab, this is the client list. Before putting in a project, if a project is related to a client, you should put in the client first so that you're able to select the client from the drop-down list in the project summary area. This is a straightforward table where you can add all your clients' information and their status. The revenue tab is automatic, so this adds up automatically when you tie a client into a project in the project summary tab, and I'll cover that when I get to that tab. Here above each table in the client list and throughout the rest of this template, you would see a filter. So if you wanted to filter out a specific client information quickly, you can go ahead and use the drop down filter here, select the client, and you would see their information displayed here. So the information displayed here is in the order that it is arranged in the columns down here. So we have the dates added, their name of course is up here, their phone number, their email address, some of the client notes, and any of the projects related to this client. So that way, if you wanted to quickly view information related to a client, you don't have to go all the way down here to search. Although if you wanted to search, you do have the option of searching by client's name. To use this filter, all you need to do is to click on the icon, clear all. Now search for the specific clients that you want to search. So in this case, I'm going to search for Bob. When it comes up, select the name and click on OK. If you get this message and all you're using is the filter, just go ahead and click on OK. This is a warning because it's trying to tell you that there are some formulas embedded in this specific page. Because you're not really touching any of the formulas, you're only using the filter, go ahead and say don't show this message again for 5 minutes and click on OK, and it should be able to display the specific client. So that would be another way to search for a client's information. The next tab is the personnel directory. Again, it's just like the client list. You can put in all of the people that you are working with. So this could be employees, it could be collaborators, it could be freelancers, whoever it is that is not you that's also working on the project. You can store that information here. And just like the client list, you can search for the information right here to quickly pull up specific information related to that personnel. All right, so now we're getting to the project summary tab, and this is where you would add in your project. So the way this template works is that you would add in your project, and then the next tab is where you would tie the project to specific tasks. So when working on this, the first step would always be to add the project. So here we have a table that we can add our projects, the dates, the project name. Because we have entered the client information in the client tab, you should be able to select the client information here, start date, end date, expenses related to this project, and the revenue. Here you would type in the expenses and the revenue, and whatever information that you have attached to a client gets pulled into the revenue total in the client list. Just like with the other ones, you can filter by project. So let's say you wanted to quickly view information related to a specific project. So you can select, let's say, project number 1, and you can see the clients that the project is tied to, the date you added the project, the range of the time period you are working on the project, expenses, revenue, and the status. And if you wanted to quickly see how many projects that you had tied to a specific status, you can use this filter. So if I wanted to see all of my ongoing projects, you can see that I have 2 projects here. If I wanted to see my projects on hold, I have 1 project on hold. Basically, this information is gotten from the information right here. The next is the project task area. This is where you're typing in the specific tasks that need to be completed for the project. We have the first column where you would type in the task, the project name, which would be pulled in from the project summary, the category, the milestone, the priority, the start date, the end date, and the duration and the days left will be automatically calculated. This will automatically be updated. You have the option to select the progress manually. So I have here 5 different progress markers. This is something you would roughly estimate and select the best progress that matches your task. And of course, if a task has been completed, you mark it as completed using the task status options. Here you can assign personnel. This personnel, of course, is tied to the personnel list that we completed. That way you can tie in specific tasks to specific people. Just like with the other tables, you do have the option to filter certain information. So for example, if I wanted to see how many tasks were completed for all of my projects, all I need to do is to select completed and it displays that information. If I wanted to see all of them that were on hold, it shows me that information. And if I wanted to see more information related to the task, just like with the others, you could always filter right here by clicking on this filter icon and then clearing and typing in the specific task, or you can use this quick filter area to display the task you wanted. So if I wanted to display the task related to 8, all I need to do is to delete what's already there. I can use the drop down or I can just type. So if I type 9, for example, it pulls up any information that has that number 9. So I can select task number 9 and then it displays the name of the project tied to that task, the category, basically all of the information that is displayed right here in the table would be displayed here. So that way you can quickly get some additional information related to a specific task without having to search through. Or if you wanted to search through, especially if you have more than one task with the same name. So that's something I should point out actually, is that for this to work, names have to be unique. If I were to change task 8 to task 9, you see that the filter doesn't quite work. It would say there's more than one task with the same name. So for this to work, all of these names have to be unique. But if you had a situation where the specific tasks were not unique and you wanted to search for something, then you would go ahead and use the filter option to identify the task that you were looking for. All right, so the next tab is the meeting log, and this is basically what you would use to document communication. So if you had some type of communication, one-on-one meeting, Zoom meeting, text, phone call, you would use this to document it. And of course, you can tie all the different meetings that you have to specific clients and to specific projects. So that way you don't have to, keep that information separate. It's all in one place. And of course, it's also linked to personnel. So if there are other members of your team attending that meeting, you can add that information here as well. And again, just like with the others, if you wanted to search for specific information, you can go ahead and use this drop-down filter and you'll be able to quickly pull up the information related to that meeting. And you can see it right here in this area. All right, the next tab is the daily to-do list, and this tab comes with filters as well. To use this tab, you can select the start date. So if you wanted to only view tasks that were within a date range, you would select the start date here. You would select the end date here. So let me select something in February. And as you can see, this list is shorter because I have reduced the date range. So I'll take this back to March just to get more task here to show you the rest of the filters. Here it tells you your progress, and this is based on the number of boxes that you have checked off here. So I'll check on this so you can see that it goes to 0. And as we check it off, this bar grows as well as the percentage here, showing you how many tasks that we have completed. And this tells you how many tasks you have left. So as you check this off, this grows and this shrinks. We do have 2 additional filters. So if you wanted to filter this information further, meaning that you only wanted to see tasks based on a specific project, go ahead and click on that project name and it only shows you the tasks tied to that project. You can also further filter by status. So of course, if you wanted to focus on ongoing tasks, you can click on ongoing and it only shows you your ongoing tasks. If you wanted to see all the tasks that you have marked as completed, you go ahead and select that. You do have to uncheck the boxes when you move from day to day so that you're not confused about the task that you haven't really completed. This is a visual representation of your completed task, but at the end of the day, you want to reset this by checking them off. Also to note, checking boxes off does not affect the task in the area. So if I were to check off a task here, it doesn't automatically change the status here. You do have to manually change the status in this area as completed. And here we have the option to add a start time and end. You don't have to use this for the templates to work. It's just something that is available if you want to track your time to see how much time it's taking to complete a task. And if you add a start time and an end time, it will calculate the number of hours that it's taking you to complete that task. But it's completely optional. You can just leave it blank if you don't want to use that feature. Just like with the dashboard area, if a task is overdue, it would show up in this color red. All right, so the next tab is the weekly tab. And here you would select that you wanted to view your task. So right now we have Friday, February 9th. If I wanted to change this to, let's say, Monday, February 12th, you can see it will display the task based on start date. But if I wanted to display the task based on their due date instead of the day that I wanted to start doing that task, go ahead and click on this box, and as you can see, it doesn't display anything here because none of the tasks are due this week except for task number 2, which has a due date of February the 12th. So I'll go ahead and check this off for now to show you the rest of the filters. You can also filter by project. To show all tasks, you can leave this blank, or you can select the specific project and it would only display tasks related to that project. All right, so the next filter would be by categories. If you wanted to filter by category or department, you go ahead and select that here, and as well as displaying by task. So of course, if you only wanted to see tasks that are ongoing or tasks that have been completed, go ahead and select the appropriate status to view those tasks. All right, the next tab is the Kanban board, and this is where you can visualize the task by status. The first thing I want to point out before I show you how this board works is that it does have up to 7 different panels, and you may not want to use all of these panels. So depending on how many statuses you want to tie to your task, you may not need all of the panels. So let's say if you only wanted to use 4 panels, you can go ahead and click on this, and this will collapse the Kanban board. And again, because the area that's going to be collapsed has some formulas, it will give you this warning. It's okay to hit don't show for 5 minutes and hit OK because you're not changing any formulas. You're just collapsing the different panels. So go ahead and click on don't show and click OK. That way, if you're only using 4 tabs, the rest of the tabs are out of the way. But if you're going to use all 7, go ahead and keep it expanded. To use this Kanban board, select your start date right here. Double click to select your date and select your end date here. And once you do this, all of the tasks would automatically be displayed right here. The next thing you want to do is to change the order of your status. It automatically comes in the order of idea, to do, ongoing, completed, and the rest of the statuses, but you don't have to follow this order. You can follow whatever order you want. So if you wanted to see all of your completed tasks first, go ahead and click on completed, and it shows you all the completed tasks. And if you wanted to see your ideas here, go ahead and click on that. So you do have the flexibility of changing the order based on what works for you. I'm going to go ahead and just reset this based on what I had before to show you how the rest of the Kanban board works. Before I move on to that, I also want to show you that this shows you the number of tasks you have here. So because we have 1 task here, it shows you have 1 of 14 tasks, and 8% is based on all of the tasks displayed here. All right, and right here, it shows you the task name. It shows you the progress, the due date, and the priority. Moving on, above this panel, we have another filter. We can filter by projects. Because this is a multi-project template, you have the option to either use it for 1 project or multiple projects. So if you're working on multiple projects at the same time, you can go ahead and just view the tasks related to that project. So to select, let's say, project number 8, you can see most of the tasks are disappeared because there are no tasks right now tied to project number 8. If you wanted to display all of them, of course, just leave this blank and it shows you all of the tasks in this template. All right, so the next filter would be to filter by phase. So if you wanted to view the project by phase 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or timeline, depending on what you have decided to use here. And again, it will show you only the tasks tied to that phase. And by the way, if you want to combine the filters, you are able to do so. So for example, if I wanted to view project number 1, okay, this narrows it down to 6 tasks. And if I wanted to see how many of these tasks were in phase 1, okay, there are only 2. So these filters can be combined. If you use one filter, you can combine them. So if I wanted to then filter this even further and say, okay, how many of these tasks are medium? I can go ahead and click on the priority here, and it only shows me 1. That way, if you really wanted to narrow down the information, you can go ahead and do so by using one filter or combining multiple filters, especially if you have a lot going on and you just wanted to focus on specific tasks related to a specific project or a specific phase or a specific due date or a specific priority. All right, so the next filter we have here is by category. And finally, we can filter by personnel. So if you or a member of your team only wanted to show tasks related to your name or another employee's name or staff or collaborator, you can click on that and it will only show you tasks that have been assigned to that personnel. The next tab is the Gantt board. The Gantt board works by selecting a project name. Unlike the other ones where if you leave it blank, it shows you all the projects. For this specific tab, it will not. You have to select a specific project. With the Gantt chart, you do have the flexibility of showing the different phases. So it's divided into 5 areas. That way you can organize your task by phase or timeline depending on what verbiage you decide to use. And you have the option to select whatever order you want. Right now it is ordered by phase 1 through 5 in this demo, but if you wanted to change the order and only display phase 1 and phase 2, for example, you can go ahead and delete these ones. And it just shows up as blank. So depending on how you decide to use this or whatever order, you do have the option of selecting it from the drop down area to display what you want. So the way the Gantt chart works is that we have a list of the tasks here and some information tied to those tasks. And on this side, we have the calendar that we can display the tasks in different colors. So if I were to change this to sometime in February, can see that right here the task number 5 has a start date and an end date in February 13th to March 12th. You can see that color changes here February 13th and goes all the way through March 12th, and this applies to all the tasks that will show up in this area. Now the top row right here gives you a summary of all of the statuses, all of the information in the task area. So for example, it shows you the start date of the earliest start date based on all the tasks here. So February 2nd is the earliest start date, so it shows that up here. And right here it shows the latest end date. So because we have March 2nd here, it shows March 2nd here. So it basically looks at the information below in this area and it summarizes that information up here. If both tasks are marked as completed, the status here would change as checked off as completed. So if, for example, were to go back to the task category, go to task number 5 and change the status from complete, let's say ongoing, and go back to the Gantt chart, you can see that it changes to a red X because the status has now been completed. So this status will only change to completed when all of the tasks in this area have been completed. One other feature I want to point out in the Gantt chart is the collapsing feature. Again, when you try to collapse, it will show you this warning message. Just say don't show for 5 minutes. You're not really changing the formula, so it should be fine. And this is just a way to collapse that information. So if you wanted to quickly view the information without specifically viewing the task and just looking at the summary for each phase, collapse all of the tabs here and you can visualize the start date and end date for each phase, the average, the longest duration, the days left, general status, general progress, and a progress bar. That way you can get a summary view of all of the information related to the phase, and even the Gantt chart will show you a summary of that. And you could always right click here and say expand all rows and it would show you everything. So remember, the first row is a summary and the rest of the tabs are your individual tasks related to that project. I would caution you though that this is limited, so if you want to add more rows, if you have a lot of tasks tied to each project, go ahead and let me know. You should be able to add additional rows without a problem, but some of the formulas would have to be copied all the way down. For example, the progress bar formula would have to be copied, so you can go ahead and do it, or just let me know. I can add additional rows for you. All right, so let's move on to the monthly calendar. I believe this is the last tab, and it works just like the weekly and the to-do list tab, where you select your month here, select your year here, and it will display all of the tasks related to that month. So all of the tasks for the month of March, as well as the due dates, it will show up in the sidebar, which you can collapse if you only wanted to visualize the calendar. Just like with the rest of them, you can display the task by due date. You have additional filter options, which would be to filter by task status. You can filter by project, and you can decide to show all projects by checking this checkbox. That is the end of this walkthrough video. Like I said before, if you have any questions, I have this instructions page that has a step-by-step breakdown of all of the different tabs and how they work, and additional information that would be helpful to you on how to use this template. If you still have questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will always be displayed at the top of this template. Thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't purchased this template, like I said before, links in the description box so you can go ahead and grab your copy. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.